Happy Monday, guys. Welcome to daily stock market analysis. Starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trying to hold this trend line, this white trend line you can see here. If I zoom in, Bitcoin is barely hanging there right at the edge of the trend line, and it really needs to close above to be a bull. And we will discuss today bull case and bear case. Starting with Bitcoin and entire stock market we will review. And if you're liking the content, please hit the like button. It only takes you 1 second to hit the like. Please share with your friends and family. All content is free. If you're making money, want to thank me, there's a PayPal link in the description. I will be really glad if you can donate. I'll appreciate all your help. Okay, guys, so this is the trend line. Bitcoin is falling, and this is the daily chart of Bitcoin futures. And you can see here, as I said, you can see here support here. This was back in January, and then in the middle of March, support again here, and now we're again back there. We're barely hanging on. If I go to 1 hour chart, you can see what I was trying to tell you. You can see this is a big resistance here. If I draw a box here, and let's make it a bit red, so we know it's a resistance here. You can see big resistance here, and I told you guys, if you look at my videos from weekend and last couple of weeks, I told you this is the line we need to break. Bitcoin needs to go about 27,469 to be a bull, and right now Bitcoin is looking very weak, especially all of the sectors, Nasdaq, S&P 500, tech stocks, Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta, Amazon, all of them are at new highs, but Bitcoin is not able to go to new highs. Why, guys? There's some big manipulation going on, and we're going to be very, very careful. And let's review the bull case first. So in order to be a bull, Bitcoin did something good here. So you can see from a short-term point of view, after making a new high, Bitcoin is now making, if I go zoom in a bit, Bitcoin is making series of higher high. You can see this high, Bitcoin made a slightly higher high and higher low. You can see this low is higher than this low, but now looks like Bitcoin is going in a wedge. Okay, and Bitcoin needs to make a decision very, very soon. And if I draw another line here, looks like Bitcoin is now following a wedge here, and soon a decision will come, and that decision will most likely come tomorrow after CPI. Tomorrow or day after, I think Fed meeting is starting tomorrow for US Fed meeting, and they will result meeting minutes on Wednesday, and tomorrow could be just another side off in the chop in this triangle, and then we're going to break out or break down. Okay, and on Wednesday, if Fed increase by 0.25 basis point in interest rates, like what Bank of Canada and Australia did, that's going to be really bearish for stock market, and we'll see a heavy sell-off. Okay, so we got to be very, very careful here. Decision time is coming very soon, and if you want to see on a smaller time frame what is the target, so to get a target you can draw a trend line here. Okay, from top to the bottom. If we break out, depending on when we break out, we're gonna go back into this resistance. If we break down out of this wedge, we're gonna fall back somewhere here around 24,000, which is the bottom. If I go to daily chart, that's the bottom line of the buy zone here, this buy zone here. So we can go towards the bottom end. Okay, so that's the bull case and bear case. Quickly, just in a wedge, so let me get rid of this. But I do think Bitcoin needs to cool down a bit before it can go higher, especially because S&P 500 is too extended. You can see S&P 500 is very, very extended, and this is the famous chart which I reviewed to see health of market. Bitcoin is following S&P 500. You can see it's at all-time high, but this is the biggest sell zone here. It's touched just the purple line. Okay, just the purple line. You can see what happened. Whenever we come very close to purple line, we sell off. And you can see here, we came close to purple line, we sell off. And you can see came to purple line, we sell off. And you can see, let's keep going. Here, sell off. Here we touch, we even went above it. Okay, so basically this is first standard deviation, this is second standard deviation. It can even go as high as second standard deviation, but this is a big risk zone. Okay, we are entering a big risk zone, and that's why S&P 500 needs to cool down. That's the reason I think Bitcoin is going to sell off with the S&P 500. Most likely, I think Fed will raise interest rates by 0.25 basis point. I'm not sure why US will not raise. If Bank of Canada and Bank of Australia did it, they can. If they don't raise interest rates, they're gonna be rally. Market is gonna go higher, but it looks like market is at all-time high. S&P 500, Nasdaq. So I think it needs a cool down. So maybe that's gonna be a caveat for it to sell off. And again, if Bitcoin sells off, I'm looking for at minimum around 23,400 or around 24,000. And then a bounce. Okay, this is my green line scenario. This is my preferred scenario. Then a bounce, and then we're gonna go back to gap here. One good thing about Bitcoin, if you go to futures chart, because Bitcoin sold off starting Saturday, Friday, we created a gap. If I go to 1 hour chart, you can see futures created a gap. Let me draw a horizontal line here. Yellow lines are our top gaps, and bottom green line is our bottom gap. So these gaps will be filled eventually. Okay, so that's a good news if you're a bull. So from today's close to that gap, that's around almost 1.8%. Okay, and Ethereum is even higher. So if you are a long-term investor, you know at minimum we are going and filling this gap. I don't know when, but we will eventually fill this gap. Ethereum's gap is around 5%. Okay, so you can buy Ethereum knowing Ethereum will fill this gap is around 1834. Eventually we'll fill this gap. And if I go to daily chart, there are two gaps now for Bitcoin to figure out now. Okay, so there's a bottom gap here around 20,345. You can see this gap here, and then there's a top gap now around 26,465. So I think most likely what we're gonna do, we're gonna go down around 24,000. There's this support area here. Let me draw another support area here. This support area here, and let me make it a bit green here. So I think most likely my preferred scenario is to sell off. Okay, find buyers here, and then go up to fill this gap. Okay, and then go down to fill this bottom gap towards the end of the year, October, November. Okay, that's what I'm thinking Bitcoin will do. And yeah, I think that covers Bitcoin. And if you guys have any questions, any comments, please add to the video comments, and I will try to review and answer later on. Okay, now I'm going to go to S&P 500, which is the broad market. You can stay here if you are only following crypto. I'm going to review the entire market. You can see that will give you an idea on what to expect. So let's quickly review MES chart. This is S&P 500. It keeps going higher. Look, I think there was a future contract switch, so that's why there's a gap. So there's not really a gap, but you can see now cycles looks like it's shifting a bit. So these cycles can be off slightly here and there, but you can see we are reaching a big cycle low here around mid of June. So that's from today. It's this week. Okay. So actually, funny enough, it's on 15th of June, so we could get a big sell-off on 14th, which is when Fed's going to release meeting minutes. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so we are going in a parabolic move. S&P 500, SPY was up 0.9%. And I do still expect a pullback. It's just going straight up, which is not healthy for the market. And if I add SMA lines, you can see this big gap. Let's go to the other ones. US 500, you can see big gap between green line, which is 10 moving average, and white line, which is 20 EMA. It needs to come back. Every time it goes above green line, it comes back. Okay, so it does need to come back, cool off a bit, or maybe stabilize a bit here. Let's go to 1 hour chart and see if we see any divergences. You can see what's happening. We made a new high, but you can see what's going on. You can see PPO is also going lower. RSI is also going lower. Okay, so there is divergence on PPO and RSI, which is very bearish. Basically, I won't say bearish. You need to be, if this keeps on going, it will erase divergence. But for that to know, it has to go and keep going higher. Else, this is an early indication. You got to be careful here. And if I go to SPY, let's see where is SPY. Let's see if we see anything different here. You can see there's a gap here. Let me hide this moving averages, so it's better to see. You can see on SPY. I think on daily it's showing divergence. So I have to make it. You can see daily, Actually, PPO is now trying to be flat. RSI is also trying to be flat. You can see PPO has slight divergence, and then RSI has also RSI is turning flat, so I don't see any divergence. I'm going to get rid of this. Only PPO showing slight divergence, okay? But 1 hour chart is showing bigger divergence. If I go to 1 hour chart, let's see. You can see what's happening here. Let me draw an arrow. You can see we made a new high, or you can see PPO is lower, and then you can see RSI is lower, okay? So a pullback will be healthy. One thing to note, there are multiple gaps on 1 hour chart on SPY. So these gaps most likely fill. 90% of the gaps are filled. So you need to ask yourself, if you're still holding this market and enjoying gains, why don't lock in profits and wait for these gaps to fill, okay? These gaps will eventually fill. If I go to daily chart, do you see this big gap here around 395? This will eventually fill. I don't know when, but eventually it will fill, okay? So be very careful. Let's try fib retracement and see if we can try to find some buy entries. Now it's even going above previous zone. So if I do a fib retracement, so the new fib retracement box, new buy zone is going to be around here, okay? This whole box here, this is the buy zone, and let's see if we get that, okay? Most likely Fed could create a big sell-off, and that would be a big buy time for us, okay? This is a 409, which is, I'm thinking most likely we're going to go and touch this before we go higher. So be very careful, guys. And all I'm saying is, you can see this parabolic move, we get reverse. Parabolic move, we get reverse. Even in a bull market, we need some cool offs, okay? You can see bull market here, going higher, cool off, going higher, cool off. We don't just keep going straight, going higher, cool off, go on. So we do need a pullback. That's going to be very healthy for the market, even if you're in a bull market. Media is saying we are officially in a bull market because this pump is above, let's see, since October lows, sorry, not December, I think I had to look October lows. So since the bottom to the top, we are above 25%. So I think they're saying as soon as we go above 20%, it's a bull market. Looks like we are in, media is saying we're in a bull market. But let's be careful, guys. I do expect this sell-off, but I don't know when it's going to come. This is not the time to be bull, okay? And also this chart is telling me this is extreme case. Now it's going above second standard deviation. This is third standard deviation. This is like unbelievable. If we can go there, we can. But this is like unbelievable run right now. 8% run, unbelievable. What happens when we get 8%? This one was 5%. This was 7.6%, 6.3%, 6%. And with a lot of chop here, 7%, 16%, we can even get 16% runs sometimes, 10% runs, 8% a lot of times, also 6% is an average, but I usually keep anytime above 6%, I try to be very, very careful, and I look for pullbacks, okay? There's like no pullback in this run. You have to be very, very careful here, guys. That's all I can say. All right, so that covers, and let's go to NASDAQ 100. So this is US 100 chart, just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And let's do fib retracement and see if we can find some buy zones. So if you do fib retracement from here to here, let's see if market pull back. There's a buy zone here, so you can draw a box here like this previous. This could be the buy zone. Okay, so let me get rid of this. And let's go to triple Q. So it's going to show us the scenarios which are preferred. Let's go to 1 hour chart and see if we have any gap. We even created another gap today. You can see gap up. You can see this was 1 hour chart, another gap up. So these gaps will be filled. Another massive gap here. So if you go to daily chart, all these green lines are the gaps to the bottom. So from this today's close to the bottom gap, we are around 14-15% down. Okay. I'm not saying we're going to go that down. I think we're going to at minimum go fill this gap, which is around 332 before we go higher. So I do think this scenario is still in play. Looking for a pullback to this trend line, another like a dead cat bounce, and then go lower. Okay, that's my preferred scenario. And let's draw this trend line and let's extend this trend line because we are now above it. and it's going to have something like this. Okay, and let me kind of fix it a little bit more here. Let me make it better. Yeah, something like this I'm expecting on triple Qs. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and US 30 Dow Jones was 0.56 up, keep going higher very slowly, and yeah, it looking I don't know when we're gonna get this pullback, but I'm not looking to buy, guys. That's all I'm gonna say. If I go to Dow Jones DIA ETF, there's a gap here, so you can see at minimum I'm looking for a pullback to get this gap. So something like this, at minimum get this pullback before we can go higher again. This big gap will be filled, also a couple of gaps here, but at minimum looking for this gap to be filled. US 2000, basically since it bottomed at cycle low here, is just ramping up. If I go to 1 hour chart, looks like it broke out of this channel. So if I draw something like this, yeah, looks like it broke out of this channel, and now just basically it back tested. If I draw something like this, back tested and now going lower. Another thing I want to check on US 100 if there's any divergence on 1 hour chart on futures. You can see still futures are showing divergence on 1 hour chart on Nasdaq, and RSI looks like it's about to erase divergence on RSI, slight divergence. So still divergence on Nasdaq. If I go to daily chart, I don't really see divergence on daily chart. RSI also looks like here slightly showing divergence. Also we got a buy signal. So very interesting price action today, but this is a parabolic move. I'm not interested. I will buy other sectors like oil, right? I will review it very soon. So US 2000, basically this was my sell zone, 1901. We touched that, we took profits, and now I'm looking for a pullback at minimum here to this buy zone here, pullback and then bounce. Okay, crude oil sold heavily here and perfectly playing out with my cycle here. You can see I was expecting lower prices, but we are getting a sell-off right now. And let's go to 1 hour chart and see if we see any divergences developing. Let's see, not yet. I don't see any divergences developing on crude oil yet, but I want to see some divergence. So the only thing I see is PPO is about, green line is about to cross red line. And we got a buy signal here on crude oil, just this hourly candle, but that doesn't mean much. I want to see a new low with some divergence on 1 hour chart. Let's go to daily chart if we see anything here. Daily, I don't see any divergence. Maybe slight divergence on RSI. You can see we made a new low. You can see on RSI we made a new low. Let me get this right. You can see we made a new low. This is a new low compared to this low with high divergence on RSI. PPO is kind of flat, no divergence on PPO. But we're getting very close to the bottom, guys. I was expecting it to happen a little bit later, but looks like it's happening now. And we could get a little bit more sell-off, but we are reaching a very good support here. You can see this whole area around $65. This is a big support zone, okay? So you can see this whole area here. This is a big support zone. So I think we're gonna bounce. If tomorrow we sell off and we come back to this zone here, this is gonna be good buying opportunity. So we are getting very close to the bottom. That's all I can say right now. So yeah, look to buy energy sector. I'm looking to slowly buy CNQ today. This is CNQ. One thing to note, crude oil almost fell as big as 5%, and CNQ, this is the largest Canadian miner, it only fell 2.3%. Even XOM, let me show you XOM, how much it went. This is another US highest US miner. This was also only 0.9% sell off. Okay, so all these miners are crude oil companies are holding very good. So this is a good sign for crude oil that sector is not selling off as heavy as basically crude oil itself. So any green sign in crude oil will make this energy sector pump. Okay, also let's quickly look at XLE, only 0.96% down. So it is a very good sign that crude oil companies are holding very nice. I do expect a sell-off, but because we got low as crude oil was done as low as 5%, still XLE was only down 0.96, which is telling me that we might not even go this low very soon. We might only come as low as here to 77 and then bounce, but we're getting very close to the bottom, so I'm not sure if we're gonna go, but that will be my eventual target. But it doesn't need to happen now. We can go here, we can do something like this. It doesn't need to do it now. So we can definitely do on XLE something like fill this and then go up. Look at all these gaps to fill to the top side. So those are the things. So also CNQ, you can even buy tomorrow. Dividends are coming on this Thursday. The US also, as well as Canadian, very healthy dividend on this. So this is going to be a good buy if you want to hold it for a couple of days. And also that these yellow lines are gaps to fill. So from today's close, if we go up to first gap fill, it's around 2.3%, and the second gap fill is around 9.5%. Okay, and you will get dividend, which is also like 4% yield. This is one of the good stocks I'm looking to buy. DXY, looking for lower prices on DXY. Let's see how Fed goes, and we'll figure it out after that. Natural gas, basically crude oil is selling, so natural gas is kind of it will sell with crude oil. If I go to 1 hour chart, you can see natural gas, there's a gap here, so maybe it wants to come fill this gap before we go higher. But crude oil is natural gas is coming very close to the bottom. This cycle, this mini cycle low is coming here. There's another cycle here around 4th of July. So crude oil is almost towards the end of bottom. So look to accumulate UNG. That will be very healthy. I already covered Bitcoin. Gold. Gold was flat kind of today, but again, it came very close to the. Now, if Fed raise interest rates on, which I think they will, or they will say something along those lines, and that will create a massive sell-off, and that will bring gold to the buy zone here. So if gold on Wednesday comes here, look to buy gold. Also gold miners. Same thing if you see sell-off on Wednesday, look to buy gold and gold miners in this zone here. Okay, it's around 30. Anything below 30 on this trend line, look to buy gold and gold miners. I'm going to draw a box here for you guys. Also, there's a gap here. It can come as low as 29. But my point is, this is a buy box here, okay? You should be looking to buy gold miners here. Silver, same thing, looking for sell-off and then a pump to new all-time highs. Copper is basically not yet in the buy zone, but it's almost there. So it's from today's close, it's 1.5%. So tomorrow, if we go here, copper is going to bottom before gold. So if you go here, look to buy. This is the ETF CPER. If you want to buy copper, look to buy this. Okay. Palladium, massive bounce today. And one thing I wanted to tell you on Palladium, we have divergence on daily chart. You can see higher PPO, higher RSI. We keep going lower. So it looks like it was a fake out on Friday. And now, in order for Palladium to play out, you can draw a trend line. Draw a trend line like this. Let's say it looks like it does break out. So draw a trend line like this, which I already drew before, and it's also in this channel, and looks like we're breaking out now. So that's good. That's a good sign on Palladium. You can see we made a new low on higher RSI. PPO is still not higher, but higher RSI, and now we're going higher. Okay. Wheat daily chart, I think it's still in this wedge, looking very solid. Wheat is going nowhere, looking for this to break out very soon. Looks like wheat is also in this bullish falling wedge, and it's going to break out, finding right resistance around these two red lines and yellow lines. This is 50 EMA and 50 SMA. The day it breaks, it's going to be very bullish. Maybe it will break on Fed day. Let's see what happens. Coffee is the other one, down 3%, but looking very good. Coffee is now holding this 200 SMA blue line. Okay, looks like coffee is a buy here. Already buying coffee. You can buy JO if you want. For some reason, TradingView is not showing JO. This is what you can search in your exchange. JO is the ETF you want to buy if you want to buy coffee. Mortgage rates, if Fed increase rates, it's going to go up, and then that's going to put a lot of pressure on the entire market to sell off, and that's what I'm thinking is going to happen, but we'll wait and see. Looks like coming very close to cycle low, and now looking for a bounce here on mortgage rates. Looks like bottom is in, and now looking higher, and it looks like these gaps are filled. another couple of gaps, so it can go higher. Be careful here, guys. Bonds market, and let's see, they're looking okay, and I am looking for lows. Basically this previous low, I'm looking for lower low compared to this previous low. And let's keep on moving. I covered XLE, XLU, utilities sector. Basically it's also on this trend line, so looking good as long as we are on this white trend line. Let me zoom out a bit. You can see for some reason it's computer is running a bit slow, but you can see this white trend line. It's again on this trend line, coming for a back test, bounced back test. So look to buy utility sector, looking good. XLV also is green and also is nicely holding this trend line here. Let it load. There's a trend line here. It will show up. Give it a second. Here you go. And then it's also holding this trend line. As long as it's above this trend line, it's all good. And also if I zoom in a bit, it's also above this 200 SMA blue line. So looking very, very good. Healthcare sector and industrial sector is same as Dow Jones. But the only thing which is bothering me is this gap here, which is around 98.38. I'm looking for that gap to fill before going too higher. So yeah, looking like it's making almost a new high, but divergence on PPO. So PPO, yeah. And then RSI, let's see, you can see here what I'm trying to tell you. You can see PPO is also lower. We haven't made yet, but we could very soon. But RSI is showing me something else. Let's see, RSI still a little bit divergence. So if you make a new high and with divergence on PPO and RSI, that's going to be a sign to get out. Okay. And real estate sector with mortgages going higher, it's going to be very bearish for real estate. So if Fed's increase rate on Wednesday, looking for this pullback to fill this gap, and then it's going to go higher. Financials are flat. The only thing which is bothering me on financial before going long is this gap. This gap is around 32.19. You can see this daily gap here. This is sorry, it's around $32.11. Also, there's another gap here around $31. I'm not too worried about that gap. I think at minimum, I'm looking for this gap to fill from today's close. Percentage wise, that's around 3%. Okay, so if you get this sell off on Fed day, that will be a good area to buy. All right, and let's quickly look at tech sectors. Well, it's not much to discuss on tech sectors because they're just pumping. Tesla keeps pumping, just going straight up, and with multiple gaps. You just gotta decide yourself if you really want to buy this. You can see this gap here around 235, another gap around 222. Then there's another big gap around 161. Then there's another big gap. Let me get rid of this first. I can see this another gap here around this gap here around 145. So yeah, just make a decision for yourself. You really want to hold Tesla here. There's also a couple of gaps up. It can definitely go and fill those gaps as well, but these are parabolic moves, guys. You can see also the separation from this green line, 10 moving average, way too far. At minimum, we want to come back, fill this gap, and then go higher. Okay, so be very careful here. Apple also new all-time high. No, it was before. Looks like could be a, I don't know if it's gonna, let's say if it makes a new high. If it makes a new high and if we see divergences on PPO and RSI, that will be a signal. But if it burns through PPO and RSI, then that's very bullish. Only thing which is bothering me is all these gaps to the bottom side. Okay, all these green lines are gaps. Eventually they will be filled. So just be careful when we get this sell-off. It's going to be very, very intense, guys. So you got to be very careful here at these levels. Google is like, looks like top is in. And let's see if it's going to change trend. If it sells off now, that's going to be a change in trend. This is this massive gap here. Microsoft, I think there was a news Activision deal. It's not happening, I think. So as soon as that happened, it bounced. It was down around 1%, but then it bounced. But again, there's a gap here around 315, another gap around 276. Snowflake was also red during the morning, and then it closed green. Looks like tech stocks, a lot of pressure on tech stock. All tech stocks are just like going Oganza. Massive gap here around 136. Meta looking for multiple gaps here to fill. Also this big gap here around 215. That's my target. Let it load. You can see all these gaps. Green lines are the gaps. You can pick which one you like. Amazon, also same story. Looking for multiple gaps to hit. Let's see if it loads. Here you go. This gap here. Actually, let's go to 1 hour chart. Did it fill any of this gap? Let's see. This gap is, you can see this gap is also still not filled. So same story. Amazon, all these green gaps. Looking for those gaps to fill. Netflix, same thing. You can see also on Netflix there are multiple gaps. Let it load. Let me hide this EMA line. Maybe that's why it's taking a bit while to load, I guess. But you can see all these green lines. Looking for these gaps. Again, day before yesterday, gapped up. NVDA, massive gap. This earnings gap, eventually this will be filled. I just don't know when. This, if we get a gap down, this could, the whole thing could be an island reversal. It could be like a lot of people getting stuck here. So it looks like there could be a day when the news comes and all these people get stuck there. Okay. AMD, keep pumping. Again, same story. It looks like an island reversal here. So if we gap down on one day, it's going to be mess. All these people will be trapped. So be very careful. Disney is looking good. As soon as I've been telling you, it's a good buy. It's in the long-term buy zone, and it just looks like the bottom is in. Only thing which is bothering me is this gap here. This gap doesn't necessarily need to fill. You can see this gap here. It didn't fill until here. So this gap was created on December, and until May, 4 or 5 months. It took 4 or 5 months to fill this gap. Also, this gap here as well. Okay, so it could go up, fill this gap before it comes down. Okay. Did it fill this gap? Let's go to 1 hour chart. Looks like it might have filled this gap. Yeah, this gap is filled now, so we can get rid of this. On Disney, you can see how nicely these stocks, they always go and attract gaps. Okay, so there are multiple gaps to the up. There's another gap down. If we go down at any day with Fed sell-off, if we are here around $88, look buy Disney. Okay. Nike also looking good. It was red in the morning, and then now it closed green. You can see this candle here, massive Thor handle, the hammer, sorry, and looks like it wants to go up. The only thing which bothers me, there's a gap here around 104, so that's the only thing which bothers me. So if it falls down, look to buy on the gap fill. Okay, so looks like Fed can induce a sell-off, and when that happens, a lot of stock will be in the buy zone. All right. Okay guys, that's it. That's it from me today, and if you're still here, please hit the like button on your way out, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.